Finland has become NATO's 31st member. The alliance's headquarters in Brussels has seen a day of ceremony and emotion. Finland's president described the occasion as historic, and NATO Secretary General said the expansion shows that Russia's attempts to weaken the alliance have backfired.
Finland's flag hoisted high over NATO headquarters in Brussels. And as anthems ring out, Helsinki waves goodbye to its security policy of the past, a move prompted directly by Moscow's aggression toward Ukraine.
The era of military non-alignment in our history has come to an end. A new era begins. Each country maximizes its own security. So does Finland. NATO membership strengthens our international position and room for maneuver.
NATO allies take a collective defence pledge, under which an attack on one is viewed as an attack on all. That means Finnish troops are now bound to protect other members of the military alliance. And Finland, which shares a long border with Russia, can now count on backup from NATO allies like the United States, France and Germany.
This is a day of joy because Finland is gaining more security and NATO is getting stronger by the membership of Finland. But we planned that Finland and Sweden could join together.
They couldn't. Sweden and Finland both applied for membership last year, but now Stockholm has been left standing on the sidelines. Its bid held up by a political tiff after Turkey accused Sweden of offering safe haven to terrorists. Hungary too has been holding out on ratification, a source of frustration for the Swedish foreign minister.
We would like to see this happen as soon as possible. There is no reason for neither the Turkish parliament or the Hungarian parliament to make any further delays.
Russia views NATO as a threat to its security and wants Kyiv barred from ever joining. The alliance insists its door remains open, but there's no clarity on when Ukraine may be invited to walk through it. For now, NATO nations say they'll keep arming Kyiv as this alliance grows from 30 to 31.
More now from our correspondent Teri Schultz in Brussels, who's been at the NATO headquarters all day long. Teri, a pretty significant day for NATO, wasn't it? Walk us through the highlights.
It definitely was a big day for NATO. This is a day that even 2 years ago we could not have imagined happening. Finland was quite content to be non-aligned militarily, believing that this was safest for it, sharing a border with Russia and not wanting to invite more Russian threats. At the same time, once Russia invaded Ukraine, all bets were off, and Finland's entire perspective on its own security changed. So definitely watching that flag be raised at NATO headquarters today, I think it was an emotional moment, definitely for the Finns, but also for a lot of people watching Finland take this historic step. I know that everyone around me thought it was very momentous. But the accession of Finland also leaves a couple of other countries wanting to get into the alliance, wishing that they had joined along with Finland. And that's not just Sweden, it's also Ukraine, which has been promised that it will eventually become a member of NATO. Let's hear what Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg had to say to Ukraine, which is asking to be let in as well.
Ukraine will become a member of the alliance. This has been stated again and again at NATO summits. At the same time, we all realize that to make any meaningful progress on this issue, the first step is to ensure that Ukraine prevails as a sovereign independent nation. And that's the reason why NATO allies and partners are providing unprecedented level of support and will continue to do so, and why we are also in constant close contact with the Ukrainians and also providing training.
Teri, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine prompted Finland to abandon its decades-old policy of non-alignment and join NATO. Were the Finns afraid they might be next?
I went to Finland shortly after the invasion to talk to them about this in stories for DW. And what they were saying at the time, and this was before they had made the decision to join the alliance, is that after the invasion of Ukraine, it wasn't necessarily so that they believed Russia would come after Finland next, but that they could no longer rule it out. And for decades, Finland had been quite content, felt quite secure in its policy. It did not believe that Russia would come across the border, but that was no longer certain after this invasion of Ukraine. So in fact, even while they weren't certain that Russia would come after them next, and certainly with all of Russia's military assets sent to wage war on Ukraine, it wasn't going to be imminent. They simply felt they could no longer risk not having the backup of other allies just in case.
And in the meantime, Sweden is still on the waiting list, isn't it? What are their hopes of joining the defense alliance soon?
All of those answers lie in Ankara, because while Hungary also has not yet ratified Sweden's membership, the problem really lies with the Turks. And Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said he does not believe Sweden has done enough to join the alliance, even as NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg and the other allies point out that Sweden has fulfilled the pledges it made in a trilateral agreement made with Turkey and Finland at the Madrid summit last July. So I think everyone thinks that there may be some loosening of the Turkish position after the elections in May, but that's the only hope now, because Sweden says it's done everything it can to change Turkey's mind.
Now, Finland, of course, wanted to join in order to secure its border, but they also bring a lot to the table, right? So what value does Finland bring to NATO now that it's a member?
There are some very interesting things about Finland in this respect. It is one of the best equipped militaries in all of Europe, perhaps in all of the world, because they intended to defend their territory alone forever. And so they were quite equipped to do this. All men of military age are trained. They remain in the reserves, many women as well. It has one of the largest artillery stockpiles in all of Europe. And so Finland has already trained with NATO for decades. They're very interoperable with NATO's military. In fact, it was almost instantaneous that Finland passed all of the obligations, all of the requirements that NATO has for a new member. It was simply getting the ratification of all 30 other members that has held up the membership until this day.
But it was still the fastest accession process in NATO's recent history. DW correspondent Teri Schultz, many thanks. For the other side of things, let's bring in DW correspondent Shegosh Symanowski. He joins me now from Riga, where DW has been operating since we were banned from Russia. Shegosh, how has the Kremlin reacted to Finland's accession?
Nicole, on the military level, the Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said that this move increases the potential of escalation in Ukraine. But also already yesterday, Russia said that it will increase the military capabilities, its own military capabilities in the regions close to the border with Finland. Today, the spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, said, elaborated on that. He said that Russia will be observing and reacting to NATO's moves in Finland. So it is quite a reactive posture, if you want.
Is this just saber-rattling, or are we actually going to see Russia up the ante?
I think this depends on how Russia interprets this politically, and I think politically Russia found itself in a sort of a paradox. You see, one of the reasons why Russia said it attacked Ukraine was to prevent what it sees as an encroachment of NATO to its own borders. Now, as a result, Finland joins the alliance, and NATO's border with Russia doubles. So the spokesman of the Russian president, he tried he said that yes, on one hand, this movement is an encroachment on Russia's security and interest, but on the other hand, it's a different case. Finland is not as anti-Russian as Ukraine, as he put it. So he really tried to play it down politically, I think, to get out of this paradoxical situation.
Yeah. Shegosh, we'll get right back to you. Stay with us for a minute while we move on to Belarus, where troops have begun training on tactical nuclear weapons deployed on its territory by Russia. The move has drawn widespread criticism, and according to the Russian Defense Ministry, an Iskander-M operational tactical missile system has been delivered to Belarusian forces. They have begun training on how to use it. This comes a day before President Alexander Lukashenko is set to meet President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Now, Shegosh, I want to ask you, how worrying is this?
This is a follow-up to Vladimir Putin's announcement from late March, and when he said that he wants to station tactical nuclear weapons on the territory of Belarus. And today we've heard about Belarusian soldiers going to Russia for training. We've also heard that apparently some Belarusian jets were modernized in a way that they can now transport nuclear warheads. But we didn't hear anything about actually transporting the nuclear warheads from Russia to Belarus. And I think this points to the fact that there is still this agreement between Russia and Belarus is still in the making. And this will be something we'll be following closely when Alexander Lukashenko goes to Moscow tomorrow.
Exactly. He's heading there tomorrow. He will be there for 2 days of talks with Vladimir Putin. It sounds very much like there is lots to talk about. What can we expect?
Yes, I think on one hand, Putin, both of them, they want to send this message of unity, of strength. You know, that Russia is supporting its ally, also as a sort of reaction to NATO's NATO's enlargement today. So this also comes in the time when Russia is preparing for the expected Ukrainian counteroffensive. But on the other hand, I think this really also shows that there are still a lot of questions that the both leaders need to talk about. We don't know who is expected to operate the weapons stationed in Belarus. We don't know who will have the ultimate command. So there is a lot of things that they need to clarify, and we will be observing if and what sort of agreements they will reach.
Shegosh Symanowski, good speaking to you, joining us tonight from Riga.